Howdy. Today is the last day of the coding tutorial series. It's a little bit bittersweet, to be honest, because these were fun to make, and I sincerely hope I imparted some knowledge onto y'all. This is going to be a bit of a shorter video to end things off, but I want to take some time to talk about something that I've been sort of neglecting to mention up until now, and that's how to write code efficiently and how to write code better. Now, better is kind of subjective, but what I mean by better is code that's cleaner, easier to debug, and easier to read if you're not the one who wrote it, which I think is the most important thing. Because I've tried my best with a lot of the files that I've put up for submission, like the sudo boss, to make it at least somewhat readable, but for a lot of it, it just looks like spaghetti. You don't know what you're looking at because you're not the one that thought up these ideas. And especially with the selection sort, let me go over to Notepad real quick to yesterday's stuff. This is really hard to process, and I'd like to think that this was intentional, that I made it really weird and unorthodox and hard to process. Really, it was just me being a lazy coder. I could have refactored this to be more to be easier on the eyes, but that's what this video is going to be about. How do you refactor your code and make it easier on the eyes? So let me go ahead and delete this stuff because we're not dealing with sorting algorithms today. Thank God. First thing you can do is comments. Now, in a normal programming language, particularly in Java and Python, what you can do is you can do two slashes to indicate brackets, and this would be this comment. Comments are ignored when compiling. Now, this doesn't work with Java, but there's something extremely similar. If you put a hash mark, then this is a comment, and this line gets completely ignored by the system when it runs. So something that you can do, and you can also put an infinite number of brackets. So you can kind of like use it to space them out. So you could do it as like a header, so I could do like 5, and then maybe use some after that. And then maybe a bit further down, I'll do 3. And then a bit further down, I'll do subsection. And then, I don't know, subsection. You get the idea. If I were to run this, there are no compiler errors. And I'm not going to bother running it because it wouldn't do anything. This is just comments. But this is something that you can do to help to write yourself some better code. Now, another way that you can debug code, or that you can make code that's easier to work with, is by implementing stuff to help debug. So let me... How do I want to do this? Let me go ahead and make a new function. And give me a moment because I'm going to have to snake my way back into tutorial funcs and make a new one. I'm just going to name this bad.mc function because the point is to make something that cannot run properly. And let me just like type some nonsense here. This is bad code. Tap back in, reload, and it doesn't even show up. This is your first tell that something's wrong. Just look through and make sure that all the functions that you have rigged up with a certain mechanism are showing up here. If not, one of them failed to compile. I did this a ton when making my selection sort, because I made an error in the selections in the inner portion of the selection sort, and it was killing the entire rest of the command. I noticed that issue, fixed it, and the command worked from there. Now, something else that you can do is implement a say command. You can do say at p. I don't know, execute if as at e at a if. No, let's do that. NBT on, I don't know. On ground isn't proper syntax, isn't a proper thing, I don't think. Let's try hurt time. If you notice, nothing's happening yet, and that's because that faulty code is still there. Get rid of it. Oh, I also need to make it so that it actually runs, so let me put in function. Let's see. I always forget the syntax for this. I might just copy paste it. I'm not the greatest teacher in that regard, but it'll have to bear with me there. So now, there we go. And it worked. When I hit the ground, it played that say command. This can be extremely useful if you know that something's going awry, but you don't know where. If you plop that say command somewhere, oops, God, every time. Healed myself, and boop, like that. And the UUID isn't that helpful. This isn't even a UUID, it's like the entity ID or something like that. It's not that helpful, but the fact that it runs is the important thing. Now, the next thing that we can do is a Teleraw command, and for this, give me a moment to pull it up so that OBS doesn't have a stroke trying to find it. Let me hop over to my good friend MC Stacker and make a Teleraw command. Now, this bit isn't incredibly helpful, but I think it's still worth mentioning. Let me actually center this a little bit better, or at least attempt to. There we go. A little bit more. Sorry about that. So, there's a bunch of options here. Translate, I've never actually worked with translate or keybind, but text, score, and NBT are the big ones. Text is pretty obvious. You can just say, like, gobbledygook or whatever. Score, you can set it to be given some player selector and some objective. It'll read out that score. And NBT can be either an entity, a block, or storage. Like, for instance, for entity, I'll do @s hurt time. It's the same, basically the same mechanism as before. Let's go to bad and swap it out. And right now, it's not showing anything. Oh, right now it's not showing anything. Because that's not right. Because it was getting the hurt time of something that didn't exist before. This should work now. There's nothing right now. Did I reload? Oh, you know what I bet's going on? It's because this isn't in curly brackets. Like that. Let's try that. No? Okay. I'm not going to bother with that. Let's try... pause 1. And if it fails again, then we'll know that something else is going on. Yeah, something else is kind of messing with it. Alright, I refactored it a bit to run as all players and Teleraw to me my own stuff. So, now. Weird. Okay. Maybe try it without the brackets, see if that fixes it. Okay, there we go. I don't know what was going on with that. But now, it shows a precise readout of all the values. And this doesn't seem too crazy useful at first, because it is also kind of flooding chat. There he goes. But it can be very helpful if you know what you're doing with it and making it only play at precise times. If you need to know data values, if you need to know scoreboard values, it can be really, really helpful. More than you would know. Now, what else is there? The last thing that I could do is suppose that we have... Oh my god, that voice crack. Pardon me. Suppose that we have a... Let's do execute. Unless score at S tutorial test wrong matches 0. So this is, and then I'll do like a, I don't know. Can't think of anything that's just like bad code, bad thing to do that's not just gonna lag a bunch. If you notice, I don't think it'll lag right now, but if I do function bad, okay, wait, let's try it again. I'm trying to make a point here, but it's not. I think it defaulted. No? Weird. Okay. Fine. If you want to play it like that, game, I'll play it like that. Who needs an execute command? Let's just make it run itself over and over again. This is definitely going to be an issue. Doesn't look like anything's wrong at the moment. Maybe a tiny bit of lag, but if I were to run it, it's running 6,500 commands. Now, this is the magic number. 65536 should be your indicator that something in your loop is not working properly. Because if it's running 65,536 commands, that is the in-game limit for the number of, for the command chain length. And I think there's a game rule to fix that. Let's do... what is it? Give me a moment to find it. Max command chain length. Yeah, it's currently set to 65,536. And And I think you can make it larger if you want, but it's best to stick with what's safe. Because if you make it too large, it's bound, and you have a function like this, it's bound to just crash the game. Because there's very few reasons why you'd want to have a command chain length of over 65,000, unless you're doing something truly insane with it. Like running Super Mario Brothers in Minecraft or something. Normally, you don't need that much processing power. And more often than not, it's going to lag more than actually give processing power. The last thing that I want to do is basically just tie it all together. How would you make code more readable? So what I want to do is, let's go to Shift left. Let's make it a bit more pretty. I'll add in some comments. Get the first value and store it. And then remove the first value. And everyone has their own style for how they want to do this. I might want to add some white space there, and then add Shift left. Append the first value to the end of the list. And maybe I want to do it like this. Some people like having large amounts of white space in their code. Some people dislike it. Some people think it makes their code easier to read. Some people like their code to be precise and contracted. It's all a matter of personal preference. Whether or not you like it, or it's basically just whether or not what you're using it for. Like in my case, since I'm using it for teaching, I'd like it to be more readable, but worst come for worst, I don't have to make it that way. That being said, if I were submitting this for a professor, or an AP course, or a job, then yes, I would like it to be very readable, because of course my supervisor is probably going to be reviewing it, and if it doesn't make sense, they're going to assume that it's bunk. But again, that's a hypothetical. We're making Minecraft commands here. It's not like I'm submitting this for a job application. But it's not... I don't know. The last thing that I want to say is just... congratulations, more than anything. I'm trying to think of some regal way to phrase it, but really just... congrats. You did it. This is the end of my Datapack tutorial. Maybe. If there is a lot of demand, I might make more stuff. Because I do eventually want to get into making custom textures and crap like that. But I want to give it a rest for now. These were fun, but they were quite time consuming, and I want to focus on other projects for now. I don't know, finishing Sour Grape, because I've had that on the back burner for 2 months at this point. And I haven't actually finished it. So I'll probably finish that next. And I need to stop bobbing up and down because it looks, OBS's compression makes it look awful. But I don't know. Just give yourself. I don't want to make this look like a middle finger. I'm kind of worried it's gonna come across that way. Give yourself a hearty thumbs up. You did it. And my homework assignment, or I don't even want to call it a homework assignment anymore because this is the last video, is I don't know, write a Datapack that gives yourself a pat on the back. Play some fireworks. Run some Teleraw commands that give you some congratulations. You earned it. This is not an easy course in a lot of places. Functions are weird. Recursive functions are very weird. Making Datapacks isn't easy, but hopefully this helped. If it even helped a little, I'd say I did my job. But that being said, signing off for the final time. Thanks so much for watching, and who knows, maybe I'll make more videos like this in the future. Have a good day, y'all.